Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast, where we dive deep into the media industry headlines and dissect the digital disruption that diverges the masses into the new media counterculture and away from the media establishment. Here is the king of podcasts.
I am sore, I am exhausted, but no, I did not work Coachella. No, I worked a different concert last night as I record this program of the Broadcasters Podcast, episode number 223. I worked Cannabis Radio's 420 Bud Bash, which was held in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And, we had a decent turnout, good sponsors, and a great venue called Lalo's in Lauderhill, just in the west end of Fort Lauderdale, out by State Road 7. For those of you that are in South Florida, you know the area. That's where we were. And we did an 8-hour festival / concert. 8 live local bands. And, music was pretty good. The vibe, the atmosphere, a lot of free product out there. Shout out to the major sponsors there. Mellowfellow.fun. I just figured I'd put a plug in there because they were really cool to everybody. Sunnyside Dispensary, which is owned by Cresco Labs, and Sunnyside Dispensary, they have stores all across South Florida, all across Florida for that matter, and among other things. So we had others, High Times Trucks, we had Normal, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, the Florida chapter was there. We had Fat Lip. We had, a good handful of vendors out there and sponsors that put out a lot of good swag bags out there for people to get. It was good. Listen, good experience. One of the few things that I get to do in the general public. So I can only imagine what it's like to run a festival of the scape and magnitude that is, 10 days that is Coachella? That is still ongoing right now. But Coachella is giving us a number of things that we're starting to realize overall. And one of the things that made me point out on the program tonight is a particular kind of music that doesn't get a whole lot of play over here in the States for whatever reason. And, I remember talking to a couple of guests on one of the networks I work on. And I talked to them about, because they do, they have a social app, and I forget which one they run, but they're both based in the UK. And I talked about UK rap music. British rap, grime, you might hear as drill, all that kind of music that's over there across the pond. And, it doesn't get any play on radio here. There's not a whole lot of chart action coming from Billboard of those songs, but yet it is getting a presence. And it's been slowly getting a presence now for a little while. And for those of you that have not listened to it, you're missing out. But I am not afraid to say this at this moment. At this point in time, when you look at the roster of hip-hop artists that are out there now, currently with music, and I'm not talking about Drake or Kanye West, listen, or even some of the, the past that are still putting out records when it comes to Eminem or Nas. Listen, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the new current class of rappers that are out there. This current generation, not previous generations, the current generation. When I compare what's going on in the UK to America, the UK's ahead by a lot. And look, there are some good rappers out there. I mean, when I look at Lil Baby or Lil Durk or Dub Baby or Megan Thee Stallion, you can say Cardi B, you can add, Nicki Minaj in the mix. Those are some of the names I would think about. And of course, you can talk about those that have been putting out a lot of music anyway that are just superstars when it comes to Drake or Kanye West. Or J. Cole, you could put in that mix too. But really, the UK is putting out a different feel. The bars are consistent. The lyrics are very creative. And the music, the way it sounds now, I believe that the British rap scene has caught up, and I believe they've surpassed what the American rap scene is now. And that's because of the part where the American rap scene, you're seeing a lot of artists that come and go. And there are some that are brought to the forefront that I'm like, man, I don't know what to think. When I think of Gunna or Young Boy Never Broke Again, I don't put Rod Wave in that category, even though he is a rap artist. I feel like he's more of a hybrid. When I think about Pooh Shiesty, or if I'm thinking about Well, Travis Scott's out of the mix. You really can't put him in there anymore because the whole Astroworld thing, but it basically took him out and got him canceled. But that's what I'm thinking about. But then if I look on the other side and I think of the artists that are coming out from the UK and the level of really of, first of all, their popularity within that country and worldwide as well. I think of ArrDee, who's very popular now. ArrDee, Central C, Dave. I think of A1 and J1. I think of D Block Europe. I think of Hazy. I think of Bad Boy Chiller Crew. Yeah, those artists, they're prominent right now. And that music's starting to make a way. And Dave is one of the featured artists. Oh, and H. So it's like spelled H, but like you pronounce it, and it's AITCH. They're all with songs that are making it onto the charts, and they're just really solid, polished rappers with great beats, great bars, great rhymes, and a lot of melody, which is missing in the American rap scene now. And that's what's going on. Like, for instance, okay, and of course, listen, they all take samples, and they're all in the same mix, but some of it's drill. When you think of Russ Millions or Tion Wayne or Digga D, there's things like that. But we don't have a whole lot of the drill music that's over here. Not as much. And they've had their certain stars that have also made their way across that have, some American fans, but not really much. It's just never been embraced over here for whatever reason. But much like I talked about Dominican Dembo a few months back and how important that music was, the fact that Coachella featured one of these prominent UK rap stars on stage and it got a lot of headlines was important. So Coachella they had going on this weekend, and The Guardian put out a story from this past weekend talking about high energy hedonism, surprise stars, and other concerns about COVID. Of course, they're still talking about that. And they talk about how festival girls appear to move as if performing a choreographed routine, tilting their faces, tensing their butt cheeks into their smartphones in slow motion. You might be in a flash mob, but suddenly the penny drops, and in the golden hour, Coachella is sometimes as much about finding the perfect selfie light as it is the musical acts. But they make mention of how there are a fairly large stable of forgettable artists whose TikTok numbers are the only notable thing about them, and some of whom clearly aren't ready to perform to large crowds. The lineup is more varied than you might think. So Coachella makes their way back, and it really makes a big difference. From the top down, it's a peculiar year for the lack of heritage acts. You had shows that really stood out this past weekend with both Harry Styles, who got to work with Shania Twain on stage, Billie Eilish, who got to go and bring Gorillaz back to do Feel Good Inc. as a song I really enjoyed. They put out bombastic shows that they neither had the discography that is the stuff of true festival legend. And Sunday's headliner Kanye West pulled out and was replaced by a team over The Weeknd and Swedish House Mafia. But you did have a lot of things where Coachella had some major artists making marks on the show. You had Megan Thee Stallion delivering an absolutely blinding Tron-style hip-hop confection on Saturday. All shimmering bodysuits, booty anthems for hot girls and boys. Bass you could almost certainly hear from within the main frame. God, I cannot read here. And Phoebe Bridgers graduated from second to headline act on the second biggest outdoor stage with her gothic pop-up book setup. But then one of the other acts that were out there was Dave. His current song is called Starlight. And you hear a sampling of the Frank Sinatra song Fly Me to the Moon, but done, of course, in a different sampling. It's interpolated. And he shouted out Shoreditch within the first 2 minutes to a dedicated crowd. And, the fact is that Drake kind of helped to get Dave up into the forefront, into the spotlight, as we know. And there was something really big that happened when it came to Dave coming out, because he had some particular person that was out on stage with him that stood out. And I really didn't put much into who that person was, but Dave came out made a big thing, really made an importance of his performance, but he was on the same stage. When you look at the other names they had, Daniel Caesar was out there, Snoop Dogg working with Brazilian pop star Anitta, AJ Tracy. Actually, there was where Dave recreated his Alex from Glasgow moment, bringing up Spike from London to take over the AJ Tracy part on their track Thiago Silva. And you had other things as well when you had people that were really into supporting Ukraine. The Ukrainian flag was out being shown behind Harry Styles or during Arcade Fire surprise set. And then also just the scope of different acts they had out there. Australian Beatsmith Flume, UK's Disclosure, Jamie at Double X, Fred Again, Fatboy Slim, Swedish House Mafia, and even 68-year-old composer turned rock frontman Danny Elfman's had a batshit set of his film music, varying from The Nightmare Before Christmas to The Simpsons to the soundtrack to Edward Scissorhands as he sang, topless with a live band, featuring Limp Bizkit's Wes Borland and deranged visuals of the match, plus Doja Cat, who at times could give Metallica a run for their money in the shredding stakes, and was a shining example of how genre is irrelevant in contemporary music. Agreed. And I like when certain artists will go ahead and cross over into other things, which is what the Coachella thing was on this weekend, and I'm sure the next weekend coming up. Crossover ability here for all these artists. And that's where I come from with my story about the British rap scene and how it was part of the lexicon of Coachella, a very influential, trend-setting music festival that gets talked about. And we're seeing a lot of viral videos coming out of that, and that's where we're coming from. So InputMag.com put out a story that really did make that point. Because how did the UK rap scene all of a sudden get into the viral, this digital mainstream of music? Through TikTok. And Jessica Lucas writes about this and says, Americans invented drill music, but the Brits have evolved the hip-hop genre and are attracting huge audiences on social media. UK drill is a subgenre of rap known for its nihilistic and dark undertones and its melodic beats. The style started in the U.S. and drifted overseas and has been sold back to the American market through TikTok. Some of the songs that have really stood out now in that drill mix are Packs and Potions by Hazy, TikTok by Pounds, and Body by Russ Williams and Tion Wayne. They've racked up millions of views on the platform, launching the artists to international fame. Although the prevalence of drill music across social media is new, the genre is not. Drill migrated from Chicago to the UK long before the golden age of sound, according to Nicholas Tyrrell Scott, a British music and culture critic. In the 2010s, collectives like Skingdo and AM 410 and more crafted the sound with distinct cadences. A large part of UK's drill success came from the many enthusiasts circulating the music on TikTok. According to T, a 17-year-old rap enthusiast from South London, whose TikTok account MayBentX has 138,000 plus followers, the appetite for drill comes down to the way Brits have evolved the genre. Quote, we started to be a bit more authentic, brought in our own beats, and stopped trying to mimic American accents. And that's what really gives that whole feel of the drill music such a good feel, because when you hear the accent coming off for some of these artists, it really does sound good. And that the level of authenticity in UK drill is key. Quote, from Zion Sapong, a TikToker, an 18-year-old TikToker who creates girl content. He says, quote, I feel like Americans love the accent and the way the British people talk. Not just the accent, but the artistry involved. And he feels that the UK's drill's prevalent wordplay and inside jokes about soccer, sex, drugs, artists, beef, and everything in between are especially seductive to Americans because it's like, quote, a code, especially for people that have never heard it before. Now, Zion grew up in the UK but lives in California. He says, quote, you actually have to sit there and listen to the lyrics to get it. That's why I think I love it so much. It's not easy, but it's fun. Although drill's alleged connection to gangs has been disproved, but the academics citing the genre's fact-fiction hybridity as evidence of the ties between highly exaggerated traces of the cultural association that remain, that it's part of very violent music, they say. Now, T talks about the competitive nature of drill's young fans, that he talks about how UK drill is better than US drill, and posts clips where he pits UK against US artists against each other, saying it feels fun to add your fuel to the fire. And despite the rivalry, US listeners seem invested in UK artists, and insiders say the appeal bridge rappers lie in the images they've cultivated through social media. T points to the artist Central C, who's from London. He's a trailblazer, and when Central C came out with his color-coordinated outfits and videos that just loop, it was mad different to what anyone had done before in the UK or US. And Central C has put out so much music now. So he had songs like Obsessed With You and Commitment Issues on TikTok that really did well, and these songs have been used in almost 500,000 videos on the platform. He's made London more colorful, more friendly. He's talking about the bad stuff, but he's doing it in an artful way. SK47 also talks about the fact that they want to see you with Fendi and Louis Vuitton. That's how they know you've got serious money and the star image. And he told Input Mag that he recently dropped almost $3,000 on a new Dior jacket, of which he posted pictures of himself to his Instagram and Snapchat. Quote, "You're selling a serious dream to a lot of people because fans want something to believe in. And his most important demographic, young women. They like the way I look. Even though they can't see my face, it's the dress sense, the energy of the body, and the charisma on camera. If you can influence pretty girls to love your music, they'll influence everyone else." And that's a pretty good point to go by. He feels his approach is the ultimate power play. Teenage girls have a lot of teenage boys who follow them on social media, and if a teenage girl is into something, all the boys will follow her. And it seems these sort of tactics are making an impression overseas. Increasingly, the New York drill scene being dominated by UK producers like Axel Beats, who's worked with Drake, and Gotcha, who's the producer behind Tion Wayne. A lot of artists have collaborated with London, and I feel that's what's helping it grow. And you're starting to see some of that. Fivio Foreign's out there. You're seeing some other artists that are working and including drill into their mix. Lil TJ also just recently put out a song. They're very much in that drill sense. And so they're all doing this and pushing forward, and it's really an interesting takeoff. And I think with American music, that should be intimidating. They should be catching notice of this, that the music that being done in the rap scene in the UK, when the origin of American music, of rap music, was here in the 70s, and now that's gone by the wayside. As it just gotten to the point where it's gotten so homogenized, and now the record labels have such a control over it and such a corporatocracy to bring on an artist, let them come in, usually have something happen to them where they go and get arrested, and they drop an album and they go away, or they go away because they die. You look at Young Dolph, Nipsey Hussle. You think of Triple X. Like, there's artists that are going by the wayside and going away quick. And then some artists that just do things just to really put themselves out there. And so, you can't think of the fact that Drake or Kanye West can continue to keep putting out records and expect them to go ahead and just stay on top. Like, even the staying power of their records and how they go and stay up, they're not there as long as they once were before. It's changed. And that's a concerning factor. That rap hasn't made their way there yet. They have to figure it out. Now, in terms of the drill music and how it's doing, well, that is something they're trying to go and bring to that the states are trying to do more of. And that drill is having a constant change. Lil Durk, Fivio Foreign are all changing the meaning of drill. Stereo Gum wrote about this, and they say that Chief Keef's Bang was the first Chicago drill video to achieve any sort of viral attention. And Lil Durk was one of the faces that came in the background of the video. And as we know, Durk came in to the limelight because he worked with Drake. And then Durk inked a deal with Def Jam Records, and now drill's been in the public eye for over a decade, and Durk's been a part of it. So he was on the hit Laugh Now, Cry Later, and he has been building ever since. He released an album with Little Baby, and he's been a featured guest on just about every big rap record in the past few years. He just released his new album, 7220, and by the time 2022 is over, it could be the biggest album of the year. So far, first week, it moved 120,000 units and debuted at number 1. A few of the songs include the diss track Aha, recapture the reckless intensity of early drill, plus Broadway Girls, a reputation-burnishing team-up with country megastar and walking PR disaster Morgan Wallen. But Durk sings most of his 7220 singing sad songs about trauma. That's his niche, the reason he's loved it. And that's really that emo rap that's always been very popular. Which is where Triple X really was the front runner of all that. Today, drill exists as a kind of a global rap lingua franca and as the favorite punching bag of moral crusaders politicians everywhere. UK rappers and producers came up with their own take on drill, adapting explosive grime-style delivery and wobbly bass lines from past generations of pirate radio dance music. Brooklyn rappers Pop Smoke latched onto the UK grime lifestyle, or the UK style. Of course, he's gone. And New York drill became its ever-evolving thing. And then it also spread to countries like Ghana, the Sweden, which, by the way, we even talked about Afro beats. And looking at how Fireboy DML or CK and how they're coming into the space. WizKid. They're all coming into the space with Afro beats with really just a different style of R&B. And it's something different and something cool. And why artists like Justin Bieber and Ed Sheeran are working with these artists now. Because they see where the music's going. The UK variant on drill can also spread to countries, like we said, and it has something to do with those clacking drum patterns and violently specific lyrics. The shape can change whatever necessary. But drill tends to sound good in lots of different languages, and many of the biggest European drill stars are immigrants from elsewhere in the world. And drill can work as mainstream party music in the UK. So, Body by Tion Williams and Russ Millions, a good song, by the way. First drill track to reach number 1 in the UK. A full-on dance track, very little in common with anything you'd hear from Back from the Dead 2. The Body remix has a ton of chattering voices, and one of those is American, Fivio, a veteran Brooklyn journeyman who seized on drill in a big way and who's been trying to make himself the face of the movement. He's been making drill in the late 10s. Now he has a song called City of Gods, which Alicia Keys is featured on. And after Pop Smoke's murder in 2020, Fivio became New York's biggest drill rapper, arguably. He doesn't have Pop Smoke's gruff, larger-than-life charisma, but he can convey skittering excitement when he really wants to. He can rap. Now, Fivio has also been featured on some pretty big artists, where he was on Kanye West's Off the Grid and had a single Story Time, which shows how Fivio could be a really great rapper. And he did put out his first album, the hype up Bible, and it turned out to be not well received. And he feels like his lane should be drill crossover. He's a person who can turn drill into pop. So we mentioned Alicia Keys, Kanye West, the collaboration City of Gods, a forced attempt at glossy New York travelogue like Empire State of Mind. And on other tracks, Fivio has teamed up with obvious pop rap suspects, Quavo, Coi Leray, TJ, rapping over drill-infused samples of pop hits like Destiny's Child, Say My Name, and Neo's So Sick. And Fivio told the New York Times that his goal was, quote, generational wealth. And Bible is definitely the work of someone who thinks he's got a good shot at achieving pop star status. Now, also, when we're talking about songs with a drill beat, Cardi B showed up on a single called Shake It from Teenage Bronx drill star K Flock. So now, in her home borough of the Bronx, a slightly different version of drill is taking hold, sample drill, where tracks use big chunks of ultra recognizable pop songs, and K Flock has emerged as one of the biggest figures from that whole world. K Flock, by the way, has a major label contract and facing a murder charge. So there's that. Using past hits, the Shake It song includes hits from Akon and Sean Paul, pairing Cardi with K Flock, and regular collaborators Dougie B and Bori 300. So maybe drill in its current form doesn't have a fixed definition, but it seems like chaos should be part of the equation. Durk brings that kind of chaos with him when he's singing about trauma through auto-tune. Fivio seems to be just trying to smooth drill into something more predictable, It's not working. Maybe that's encouraging, but maybe drill can't go fully mainstream without losing sense of chaos. But I want to bring this across because you know what? I listened to the official chart on BBC Radio 1. I will listen to it tomorrow with Scott Mills. And when I look at the charts now and the songs that have continuously been up there, and the fact that those songs, it was a couple of years ago when I started listening to the charts there, 2016, when I first started listening to that show. On Friday afternoons, or Friday mornings where it is here in the States, Friday mornings, 11 a.m., and I listen to it on the BBC Sounds app. I'll just say this. When I listen to what the music is over there, and I say to myself, there are certain songs, it took me a while for some of the grime or drill music to really catch on to me and really make me feel like, wow, this is really good. But there were just certain artists that came in and really just changed the game for me. And I think that's what's been happening, is that we have a really good competitive spirit among the artists there. Because AJ Tracy's been around for a while. You had Stormzy, you had Day's been around into the mix. But then I'll tell you, as soon as I started hearing some artists like an ArrDee or a Central C or H, game changing. And then D Block Europe. And you're just hearing where, like the other story said, they're changing up the way they're doing things. They're not trying to go ahead and sound American. They are trying to go ahead and give themselves an authentic British presence. And it works. Those songs should do well over here, but they don't. There's only been one song I remember that did pretty well in America and didn't chart very highly, but it's just, that's where we are. But when there is a lack of new music coming out now in the States, when you look at the Billboard Hot 100 and the songs that are currently up on that chart now, there's a lack. There is a lack of new music out there. Now, Jack Harlow he's going to put out an album pretty soon. He already put out a couple songs so far, First Class and Nail Tech. But then after that, top 10, you got Kodak Black with Super Gremlin. That's been on there 23 weeks on the chart and eventually just made its way up. And then I look at Lil Nas X and That's What I Want. That's a 30-week-old song. Going back when his album got released last year. Right On for Lil Baby is a new song. In a Minute by Lil Baby, also a new song. Otherwise, rap doesn't get that much play in here. It's really dropped to the bottom part of the charts. And then you have where rap used to go ahead and fill a lot of spots of new music. There's not that much right now. Like if you look at today's top hits on Spotify, it's been pretty stagnant and kind of just stale. And that's not on them. It's just there's not any new music is really staying out there and doing anything. It's just not. That's a big problem. And there's not an answer to that right now. So what happens with the music that we need to have that will really stand across? We don't have that. Like that's why I always talk about the Euro hits that could get play over here, but they don't. Or the same thing goes for what could come out from, the UK, because it used to be where, it was the reason why the British invasion happened several times, and actually would always happen every 20 years. 60s, 80s, why not the 2000s? Why not the 2020s? But it's not. It's just because American music, the record labels, the radio stations feel like they need to lock on who they're going to have up front. Because right now, if you look at the top 40 of their songs there, or top 50 of a media base, I mean, there's not much here. Handsomer from Russ, which that's a song that's going to drop right out. When you look at, there's just some artists that are on here, and I know they're trying to do something where some of the TikTok-laden artists that are out there that fit a certain mold, they're being brought to the forefront, and it's not working because those songs just drop off quick. There's no staying power with some of those songs. It's for a TikTok generation. It doesn't work here. Because there's a lot of songs they put in here that just don't make sense and nobody's listening to. The bottom end of the media-based chart of the top pop songs, the hit songs that are played on radio stations around the country. You got Jackson Wang, who at least he's a BTS artist, right? Camila Cabello and Psycho Freak, which that song will come in and out. Anita and Volver, which is like, you're not going to get much out of a reggaeton artist that's going to go up into these charts. So that's not going to happen. Baker Grace, Midnight Thoughts, don't know. Young Blue from with Kehlani with Beautiful Lies. The We Don't Talk About Bruno song from the Encanto cast, Charlotte Sands' Dress, Jenna Rose, Checkmate, Kago, Dancing Feet featuring DNCE, Lawrence, Don't Lose Sight. This is the bottom of the bottom 10 of the top 50 here. And when you look along, I see Love with a song that came back up now. Mimi Webb, House on Fire, and a UK artist making her way in. GNR Choi, To the Moon, which is a TikTok favorite. When I look at Avril Lavigne and Black Bear also having a song. Jack Harlow, First Class, making his way into the chart now. Diplo and Miguel, Don't Forget My Love. That is a dance song. Tiger with Freaky Deaky featuring Doja Cat. And Doja Cat's in here a couple of times, but songs that already came out of her album Project Her and has been out for a while. Peru, which has already been out, for several months, now just making their way into the U.S. radio stations. 5 Seconds of Summer with Complete Mess, Charlie Puth, Light Switch, Aim Bayhold, Numb Little Bug, The Motto, Tiesta, and Ava Max, Gale, ABCDFU, which, it got its run a little too late to the top after it's already been well listened to for a long time. Boyfriend, Dove Cameron, Camila Cabello, Bam Bam, Sweetest Pie, Megan Thee Stallion, Dua Lipa, Stay, Kid Laroi, Justin Bieber, which is around for months, over 6 months now. Lauren Spencer Smith, Fingers Crossed, Justin Bieber, Ghost, As It Was, Harry Styles, Glass Animals, Heat Waves, Post Malone, The Weeknd, One Right Now, which did not chart well, but gets and remember, all these songs did not chart very well on the Billboard chart. But radio is going to insist to push some of these songs out. They're just going to make their own hits. And I don't know if they're going to have any staying power at all. Lil Nas X, That's What I Want. Woman by Doja Cat. Imagine Dragons, Enemy, and Lotto, Big Energy now is the most played song on radio. And I said that's basically because they had to have Mariah Carey come in to do a remix to help bolster the song up and give it some real mainstream capabilities. But that list of artists right there, there's a lot of new artists out there. They're going to be one-hit wonders in and out. There's not a lot of albums behind there. Just some singles that come out that get some TikTok availability. But the problem is the radio stations are trying to play songs that are on TikTok, and they're just not good at, timing out when those songs make it up to the top. They're late to it. Always. That's a big problem with them. And I don't know. I don't get why the music industry or the radio industry, they just do not get themselves together. But there's such a disconnect with them now. And they're not going to get this figured out. So the Spotify, TikTok generation of listening to music is going to continue to be there. But the problem with me now is that Spotify, they're only going to be so prominent with new music as long as there's music coming out. And it's not as if they don't have the platform for people to go ahead and submit their songs, but the kind of way to go and promote it and get it out there. Like, the level of new music that's coming out now is trickling. There's not a lot of new releases every week. And if there is, you're really not getting much of a traction or really any promotion at all by radio or the record labels. Who's promoting these artists? Who's promoting anything anymore? It's just not happening. And there's a problem there. Meanwhile, we know it's happening differently for the UK, where it's just a different feel to it. Now, one story I had was a profile on ArrDee. I'll leave that up for somebody else. But one story I want to take from Music Week that talked about how UK rap talent need to start targeting to grow their European opportunities. So Tiffany Culver hosts the BBC Radio 1 Extra Rap Show, and she's championed countless acts and played a pivotal role in boosting the scene over recent years. And by the way, she's also revealed that she's now launched her own No Request label in partnership with Polydor and signing rising rappers to the label. So here's what they're saying right now. Central C is a really popular rapper in the UK. Recently collaborated with Italian rapper Rondo. And the UK Star's #1 mixtape 23 cements a partnership on the track Eurovision, featuring Rondo and a host of other rappers from Italy, Spain, and France. And the video has 10.5 million YouTube views. And Culver says, when asked if UK rap could be a truly global force, She said, quote, "Funnily enough, I was on a FaceTime with Hetty One about an hour ago. A very similar conversation had with him because he's in Amsterdam at the minute doing some sessions over there. Because something that I've been saying for the past 5 years to my musical peers, especially rappers, is stop looking for the American cosign." And that's interesting that she says that, where, yeah, they don't want the American artists out there to feel like, well, you're going to get something off of that. No. So one of the songs that happened last year in the UK, or a couple of years ago in the UK, was in 2020, where there was a song called "Don't Rush" that was boosted by a viral trend by Young T and Bugsy. And that song did make it. That's one of the few songs that did break the Billboard charts. Wanted to make sure to let you know about that. Now, also, we mentioned fact about that. Dave has been making inroads in the U.S. We talking about Young T and Bugsy making a hit impact in the Hot 100. And at the moment, if I'm right, Dave and Starlight, that song is now bubbling under the Hot 100 and could make its way into the Hot 100 very soon. It just is a matter of time. The song just came out a few weeks ago and became number one song in the UK. Now, she told Music Week as well, America is a massive territory, and to have the acknowledgement is a really special moment. But I don't think it's the end, be-all, end-all. Japan's a massive player when it comes to global success. Look at Skepta when he was releasing Konichi while he was going over there and doing the Boiler Room. You just got to be more creative with how we break into the global aspect of things instead of just doing the same blueprint. So America now is being overlooked for global success. What does that say about America? They're no longer being... if you can't make it in America, you don't make it anywhere. America no longer matters in the global footprint and the global blueprint of becoming a big star in music. The American radio, American music, are you listening to this? I know I'm not that big of a show, but do you realize what's going on here? That's a big issue. And nobody's paying attention to this at all. But this is where we are in music. And that's why I thought it was a good thing to go and take some time and talk about this, because there's a lot to it. So I would be nervous about what happens to American music right now. You know, when they're American music, we're going to miss out on some of the best music out there unless you are paying attention to other charts in other countries, like I do. Like if I'm looking for some music in Latin America, or if I'm looking for something in the UK or Britain or Europe in general, I'm going to go and look towards other stations and other charts to find it out. Because radio and the record labels here in America, they're missing the mark. They're missing it altogether. So we're going to continue right here on this subject of British rap and the influence it has in America. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. And we'll continue the discussion on it, because I had other content I was going to talk about on the show tonight, but I'm going to hold it off and table it to next week. I want to let you know what that's going to be. First of all, we'll talk about next week on the program. Oh, actually, I'm going to pull that up and let you know what I already have planned for next week's show. Pay your respects to radio, the ancestors podcasting. Rolling Stone put a story out about that. We'll talk about that part. Spotify now letting creators in some markets publish video podcasts. Facebook and it's losing interest in podcasting plans, according to a new report. And there's a Brookings Institute story that talks about policy recommendations for addressing content moderation in podcasts. So controlling what's being said and being heard by listeners. Plus a report on podcast audience and smart speaker owners that Cumulus Media put together, and how Web3 is transforming the music industry, the metaverse, and the music industry together. We'll talk about that next week on the Broadcasters Podcast. Got a few more stories I want to bring up for you real quick. One of the big stars in the UK rap scene is Stormzy. And originally he was going to go ahead and go on tour, Heavy as the Head. It was going to be a world tour he was going to do, coming from his second album of the same name. An album that reached number one on the UK album chart and was nominated for the prestigious Mercury Music Prize. Well, he is making his way to Australia at the end of the year, and his tour is going to be underway. Now, he blends an influence of UK grime and R&B into a truly unforgettable explosive mix with his prolific grime. He will be back to Australia for the first time since he performed at Splendid in the Grass 5 years ago. And by the way, one of the songs you might want to go check out if you've never heard of Stormzy is a song called Vasibot. It's a banger. Totally is. Now, he made history as the first black British solo artist to headline Glastonbury. Stormzy's known for his social activism and philanthropy. Oh, my goodness. He founded Murky Books in 2018 in July, which is in conjunction with Penguin Random House UK, aiming to challenge the mainstream by publishing voices from untraditional spaces. He also announced the Stormzy Scholarship in August 2018, an annual scholarship that funds black British students' education at the University of Cambridge. And he also has new music that he is working on right now that he'll have, could be by the end of the year. Don't know when he said when he's going to have new music that will be officially out. So there's one of the biggest names. He is the Drake of British rap, if you want to put any kind of comparison to him. Now, we made mention about one of the biggest songs in England in 2021 was Russ Millions and Tion Wayne's swarming lad anthem Body. Now, by the way, this song, I'm going to tell you about this story about the British rapper ArrDee that came from the New Yorker of all places. So American media has picked up on this. And it was the first song to top the singles chart, and its posse cut remix brought together the artists at the forefront of a burgeoning rap genre called UK drill. And one of them was a little-known 19-year-old Brighton rapper named Riley Davies, better known as ArrDee, who raps as confidently as the more established artists flanking him. And the song achieved instant virality, propelled in large part by ArrDee's pithy, quotable verse, which starts with the undeniably British exclamation, "Have you seen the state of her body? Mad." The rapper's charms were infectious. A giddy boyish energy streaked through his sidewinding rhymes, his accent and impishness, making the spot perfectly memeable. And on a track with 8 other performers, it was ArrDee's blustery, waggish verse that stole the internet's heart. And he's the only white rapper in the crowd of black rappers and their associates. Many white rappers have presented themselves as fish out of water in hip-hop and endeared themselves by performing reference for the culture. But much like a Jack Harlow, Kentucky born and raised, ArrDee made himself right at home, swaggering with the bunch in a mischievous and eager compatriot. And since his breakout moment, ArrDee has become a success in his own right. He had 3 UK top 10 singles in under a year, establishing himself as a playful practitioner of UK's distinctive drill sound. Now, UK drill is characterized by slinking 808 bass, rippling hi-hats, a certain belligerent energy, an offshoot of the trap-inflected street music of Chicago, and bearing a resemblance to Brooklyn drill, known by artists like Bobby Shmurda and Pop Smoke. The evolution of the British subgenre can be traced to the work of ArrDee's producers, Hargo, based in Watford, who produced the song Splash and Cash by UK drill pioneers 67 and Harlem Spartans, heavily indebted to Chicago drill. Plus, there's also Pound's Skeng Bop and Op Thought, which became the baseline for UK drill's own tremoring sound. ArrDee hasn't been famous for long, but he has been able to quickly adopt the confidence and paranoia of celebrity. He put out a debut record called Peer Pressure, filled with some of the same cheeky mirror-making and joyriding. But the project also has its moments of clarity. The rapper reflects on the rush of his newfound fame and the perceived divide between me and the lifestyle. One song that he recently did get charted was with a fellow white boy rapper named by the name of H, who is from Manchester, and both were able to elevate themselves from mere rabble-rouser to embattled scrapper. ArrDee maximizes the strident sounds of UK drill with a punchier and more aggressive lyrics, but even his soberest verses maintain a dizzying sense of wonder. Throughout the coiling string of guitar samples on such songs as Early Hours and Frutella, he can't help but cut up and banter. Quote, "I'm hardly a husband, the hardest in the party. See me with my charge, you fill in my glancing at shoddy. I heard her say that's ArrDee," he raps on the latter. And the glee of being recognized seems to make the other hassles worth it. And so that's part of what's being said about this Peer Pressure album that came out from ArrDee that a New Yorker of all places reviewed. Quite impressive. That's where things are right now in the world of UK rap and what it's done. But everything coming around as a result of what happened to Coachella. And there are other stars that are making their way through. There was a UTS tour that was coming up right now by Little Sims that was going to be made on the way over to the UK, from the UK to the US. That's happening pretty good right now. But it's all coming about. The music that's coming forward is incredible. And that's part of the thing you need to realize now, is that with rap music, for it to survive, rap stations don't have a lot of music to play on. Like, if you notice right now, on the rap stations, most rap radio, they don't have much. They were going back to older songs to play. Songs from the 2010s or from a couple of years ago. There's just not that much to play off of. So what are they going to do next? That's what they have to figure out. So we're going to keep it right here. Won't go an extra 15 minutes because I think what I need to say about this story is what I said. UK rap, British rap, UK drill, whatever you call it. It is great. I'm going to hear it tomorrow on the official chart, BBC Radio 1, as I record this. And next week we'll talk about podcasting and whatever else comes around the horizon here on the Broadcasters Podcast. Thanks for listening in, checking out the shows you always do. Until next week, remember that content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.
Thank you for listening to the Broadcasters Podcast. Find all the links to subscribe to the show by going to broadcasterspodcast.com. And don't forget to check out the King of Podcasts wrestling program, the Wrestling is Real podcast, exclusively at wrestlingisreal.com.